right, it's 7 o'clock. Jay, would you like to get us started?
Yes, this is the one time each year that I act as the temporary chair for just a few minutes. As chair, we're going to take an item out of order and start with reorganization of the school committee. Under reorganization, we will begin with the position of chair. Ms. Offen.
I will nominate Elizabeth Spinney to be chair.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All right, it's unanimous. Congratulations, Ms. Spinney.
Thank you.
I will hand it over to you.
All right. So the next item for business is public comment.
We gotta do the rest of the board.
Oh, what am I doing?
Sorry.
I'm looking at the
Should have said.
agenda here. The next board position is vice chair. Do I have any nominations for vice chair? Graciela.
Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate Laura Often for Vice Chair.
Nomination, any seconds? Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
I mean, I did know that Amy wanted it, but I will do whatever the committee thinks is best and whatever is best for the committee. So if I don't, if Amy wants it, we can talk about it or whatever. It's
Okay.
not a big deal to me.
I do want it. I'd like to be vice chair because I did 1 year as chair.
Yep.
I jumped from secretary to chair, so vice chair is the one I haven't done. It's been a long election season, and I feel like I already have all this energy, and I want to work hard, but it's the will of the board.
Well,
Then I'm okay rescinding my
no, okay.
nomination.
I'll just throw myself. No. I have a lot of energy, but regardless of what position I am, I will serve this board to the best of my ability. I have the most experience on this board, and I'm here to guide and help no matter what. So, but I'm happy to let Amy take it because it's not that important to me. And I'm here to support all of you. So you can rescind.
Okay, I'll
Thank you.
rescind.
You can
Thank
rescind
you
or
for
we can
considering
vote.
me. I appreciate
No,
it.
I'll rescind.
Means a lot.
Rescind? Okay. All right, so then I will entertain any other nominations.
Nominate Amy.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
All right, the motion is made and seconded. Any discussion?
Thank you.
No further discussion? All those in favor? All right, congratulations, Amy.
Thank you, Graciela.
All right, next we have secretary. Do we have any nominations for secretary?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'll nominate Graciela.
Second? All right,
I was writing.
Well, I appreciate the nomination. I've only been on the board for 3 months, but I'll do my best to serve my capacity.
all right.
Awesome.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Thank you.
All right, congratulations, Graciela.
Thanks.
All right, now we will move to public comment. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to make a public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to general business. We have the strategic planning update. Jay and Kristen?
That came quick. All right. So a couple months back, we basically reworked the strategic plan, presented it to the school committee. Our effort was to streamline and condense the plan as much as we possibly could, make it as effective and have each step have as much leverage as possible with a focus on instruction, well-being, communication, and infrastructure. While it's only been in place for a couple months, when we did that, we talked about the two of us, at the very least, coming before the committee every few meetings to provide updates. What we want to make sure we avoid is kind of that traditional strategic plan. You create it, group effort, it all looks great, it goes into a binder, and it just sits there for a year or two. So on a regular basis, at the very least, Kristen and I will be presenting to you and to the community updates. What we expect to have happen once we get going is based on either your feedback or just natural needs or things that come up that we want to highlight, talk about. We'll bring people in from the district to present with us about certain areas. All right. So we talked about that instruction first, providing unified and cohesive messaging and communication to all stakeholders. Under this goal area, we talked about that consistency, that equity in curriculum and educational experiences, doing a lot more with data, strengthening the coordination of writing, and really diving back into individualized learning. We've talked a lot about that over the last decade, but really recommitting ourselves to that endeavor.
So with instruction, it feels as though that's an ever-evolving work that we're doing. We're working constantly with each of the building level principals, the teachers, the teacher leaders. Tracy Kalo and Gabby Knight will come and present, I believe, in June on their work in equity. And they've done a fair amount of work at both the middle school and the high school, working with each of the discipline areas, particularly in English and history. We have begun our work with the use of data and training our staff in using the new STAR assessment, and I'll get to that in just a couple of minutes. Each Friday, Jay and I meet with the literacy and math coordinators. That is Lisa Rice and Jenny Durast. And newly, now we are meeting with Steve Wiltshire in his new role as the pre-K to 6 director. And that's really, I mean, we've met, I think, 3 times already, and we are already looking at revamping the new teacher orientation, the new teacher workshops throughout the school year so that it is more targeted and individualized to those new staff members. We're looking at the PD plans for next year and really targeting our professional development so it's more choice-based for our teachers. And it feels like we're starting to get back to what normal school looks like for teachers in terms of the professional development world anyway. And I believe the last time Nicole McDonald was here, she spoke a little bit about the social emotional supports assessment that she's done. So we're doing some work with that, really looking at what is it that our students need, our staff needs, so that we can start the year on a great note and running with that. In terms of data, we are implementing a new STAR assessment. And the next few slides are what was used with our staff. Steve Wiltshire, Lisa Rice, and Jenny Durast presented to our staff 2 or 3 weeks ago. Actually, it was on the Professional Development Day on May 11th, what STAR is, and then they put together a training for today and tomorrow for all of our early adopters for implementing STAR this spring. And then they will work to train the rest of our staff in the fall for assessment for all of our students in grades 1 through 10. The important piece to know about why we went to STAR assessment is there are really 3 major assessment tools that districts tend to use. We liked STAR the best because it was a quicker assessment period, so about 30 minutes, whereas others could be up to 2 hours. The questions adapt with the student responses, which is really nice because then we can really see where are the students at, and it doesn't stop them at a certain grade level. It just lets them keep going if they're getting the questions correct. And then it scales back if they're not getting questions correct, so that way students aren't getting fatigued or frustrated early on. The other nice thing about STAR is that there are a lot of reports and a lot of data that is available. So what we'll be working on this summer with our administrative team is really what reports and what data is it most important and most critical at this point in time, so that we can target our instruction for our staff, and then in turn, they can target their instruction for students in small groups in the classroom, which is really great. And then again, how will it be used? It'll be used in grades 1 through 10, assessing both reading and math. It'll be 3 times a year, and coupled with the assessment itself, we'll be looking at individual teacher data as well as grade level team data, and deploying our coaches to really help with how do we make these targeted instructions? What kinds of resources do we need? What activities should be available for students in those different stations? And then we'll use that data for our student support teams, our IEP meetings, and our 504 meetings.
All right, in terms of well-being, prior to this meeting, we met with, the school committee met with a number of students from the high school. It's always informative. We've done that a couple times now. And most of the discussion was around well-being, stress, how they, their mental health, if you will. We've been working on, tied to the strategic plan, the SST process. So that's our student study team process. We've talked about that every single year. We've worked on that as I believe we should for the past decade plus. Now, kind of coming out of COVID, we want to dive back into that process and make sure it's as effective as possible, in that what we're doing is replicating what really works in our components that work exceptionally well at all of the different 6 schools, and try to get more consistency across all 6. And also tie in the data and the work that's done at each school, do a better job of transferring that to the following school. All too often, and that's not just in Grafton, unfortunately, we do a lot of things really well for, say, the 5 years a student is at North Street. They make the jump to the middle school, their file goes with them, maybe a short meeting about him or her, but we're not capturing enough of what was really effective with that individual student and carrying that right into 7th grade to hit the ground running. So that's a piece of that SST process in the work that we're doing with transitions to improve. We still have a contract with Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services. They provide us with additional resources on top of what we have internally in terms of counseling services, and they do a wonderful job with the wraparound services for individual students and families. So we've got a contract with them that's been ongoing now for at least 5 or 6 years. We were the first district that they expanded to beyond Shrewsbury. And next year we have increased that contract to provide for more hours that we can tap into, which is great. Kristen and I are leading a social emotional wellness summit with all of what we identify as the key players around social emotional mental health. Over the next, it would definitely be in June, but probably early June, and that will include all of our guidance counselors, adjustment counselors, school psychologists, everybody that plays a real pivotal role. I think everybody is connected to social emotional health, but those who focus on that day in and day out, and we're going to be meeting with them basically to find out what's working, what's not, and what can we do better in the coming year. We've certainly had plenty of challenges. Yeah, certainly pre-COVID, with COVID, and now hopefully coming out of that in terms of where kids are at with stress and their ability to cope and to be taught those coping skills, et cetera. So that's going to be kind of a reset for us. I'm excited about it. I think it's been overdue to have that meeting and to really focus for a half day or a whole day on that important topic. Communication, I think we've done really well with all aspects of communication over the past couple of years. I think that's been a real strength. We're obviously going to continue that going forward. That equity audit, that's basically, we had started doing one internally. I think at the last meeting I gave you a quick update on that. We're now working with the town, with Evan Broussard, the town administrator. They were looking at doing an equity audit, and the thinking was if we could combine it and do it town-wide, it would be more cost-effective. It would just make sense in a lot of ways. I don't know if they've officially gone out with an RFP, a request for proposals yet, but William was working on it as of 2 weeks ago, so it may even be out by now. But it would be nice to do that in one cohesive process rather than have it be disjointed. So I'll continue to update you on that.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Just on that equity audit, so I think there's been a lot of confusion on what's going on. So because we're partnering with the town, that doesn't mean that the equity work that Gabby and Tracy have been doing has stopped. As you said at the top of the meeting, or at your top of your presentation, they've been looking at the curriculum pretty
Right.
hardcore. So then, when you say an equity audit, could you just tell us what exactly that's going to entail, or do we not know yet because we don't have the consultants?
Just in a very general sense, a lot of the organizations that do the equity audits that we've talked about, we've had them in, we've had presentations. In terms of the school-based, they typically look at hiring practices, look at existing policies, spend time in each of the schools, get feedback from parents in terms of communication. They'll talk to students in terms of their different experiences, look at race issues. They look at special education. That's a huge issue in terms of equity, in terms of access to an equal education and opportunities. That's, in a nutshell, that's what they focus on, and that would just be one part of what they do in the town. Some things would be replicated, I would assume, and wholeheartedly, that if we were to do it combined, there's going to be a school component in town. Both are going to look at policies townwide and school-wide. Hiring practices is obviously the same. The town doesn't have curriculum that really needs to be looked at when obviously we do. Special needs is going to be somewhat unique. I'm sure it will actually be talked about in terms of access townwide, but at a different level with the schools.
Of course. That was perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I have a process question, really quick. I hate to interrupt you again, but who's going to decide, who makes that decision, which consultant we go with? Is that you and Evan sitting down together? figuring that out? Okay.
I would assume at the very least, if not some kind of committee with I would assume a couple of people from school committee, a few at-large people, and I think a lot of that would obviously depend on what we get in terms of actual proposals. If we get one and it's high quality, it won't be the hardest decision ever made.
No sense
But
convening a
that would
committee
be-
until we see what we get.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
you just never know with RFPs.
Yeah, awesome, thank you, sorry.
No, sir.
All right, I'm almost done. We talked a lot about connections, really doubling down on the need to have strong connections between students and staff, and between staff. That's directly connected with ongoing strong communication, not only district-wide, but certainly school-based, grade level-based. We're going to be talking, that's probably our number one area of focus, along with mental health, with the leadership team over the summer. Ways that, again, we can look at what we do well, what's not working so well, and what can we do to improve. Not rocket science, but it's really important that everybody feels really as connected as ever next year and in years to come. We're going to re-engage more with the community. I can tell you just from my standpoint, we haven't just stopped working with the community, be it G-Term. We have all kinds of projects with community organizations, but nothing it's just not at the same level that it was a few years ago before COVID. It makes sense, but I think we need to very purposefully reconnect with the community, reconnect with Tufts, once we fully get out of COVID, just resurrect and build new relationships and really dive back into the local community. We had a lot of momentum pre-COVID. I'd love to get back to that, if not to an even greater degree. And then infrastructure, this summer we'll be doing more projects, I think, than we've done in the past 10 years. It's a little overwhelming, but it's a great thing to be overwhelmed with. Very soon, we're going to be starting the project at the middle school in the auditorium. We're still working through the logistics in terms of train and HVAC at the middle school. We have just so many projects that were in capital for this year, and then the ones that couldn't be done, they were funded last year, but for a variety of reasons, largely supply chain issues, they couldn't be done last summer. So all of those projects are coming to a head this summer, and many of these projects will actually be, we're already moving in terms of ordering, et cetera. We ordered today the playground equipment for South Grafton. So we're doing every day we're working on the behind the scenes stuff so that on the 17th, once those buses roll out, we're moving. Supply chain issues are going to continue to be a problem for a while. I'd love to tell you that so far we think the playground equipment will show up on June 18th and everything will be lovely. It's going to be in the fall. So school will already be started, and we'll make that work. But so far, that's the kind of timeline we're going to run into, and that's okay. We have all new emergency plans in place this year. We worked with, I guess it was during COVID, but we worked in a partnership with Neil Trahan, Steve Wiltshire went and were trained on emergency planning, and this is probably 2 years ago. They did it with, I think it was Neil Minardi and definitely Mark Alves with the police, and the idea was, let's find out what best practices are for emergency plans. They needed to be updated anyhow. Let's create a template that can be used for each of our 6 different schools and then have a district-wide plan. So they did fantastic work that sat on the shelf for about 6 months. And then again, beginning of this year, we dove back into it, and we now have completed plans for all 6 schools and the district. So that's a fantastic thing for us. Kristen's talked about it, but we've got a new PD system in place, very choice-based, individualized, obviously open to all staff. We've got professional development from paras to teachers to guidance counselors, a really robust development system in place, which is exciting and great for us. Do you want?
I already did.
Oh, you already did.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
talked about the new staff orientation and making that more individualized, and also improving on the mentor program as well.
Yep. And then last but not least, with the budget, you know very well that we made the jump to ClearGov. And while that was great, no regrets about doing that, although it was a ton of work for Anita. But we finally did it, which is great. In the coming year, and when I say the coming year, we really start the budget process in the summer. We're going to be looking at how do we use that tool to create a book, be it virtual or hard copy, that really tells that budget story that I think we told exceptionally well in past years. That book was a ton of work, but you could open it up, and if you actually took the time to look through it, you know how we spent our money, why we spent it that way, what the history was. It couldn't have been more transparent. I want to maintain that same approach with this new tool. And right now, today, I don't have a good grasp of that, of how exactly that's going to look, but that's certainly a big goal of ours, and one that we're going to dive into within about a month. We'll start that process. And I think that's all I have. Yeah, we can take any questions you might have.
Any questions? Amy? Oh,
Oh, all right, I'll go first. I had one question about the STAR assessment. So it sounds like this is an additional assessment on top of existing things that we're already doing. We're not cutting anything out. Is that correct?
So we are at the elementary level. It will be replacing some of the benchmark assessments that we already do.
Okay.
And we don't currently have, we have some homemade benchmark testing in 7 through 10, but it will replace that.
Okay, so we are replacing. And
Yes.
will the data be communicated to parents, or is it just for
It is.
teachers?
No, it's communicated.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Liz, oh, sorry.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, she had her hand.
Um, Sorry. So I just have a question about like the communication part of your presentation. So I know we're trying really hard to provide wraparound services to students, especially by connecting them to the Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services. What has been the, I guess, the feedback or our impressions of students who don't necessarily reach out, that they need some help? And also students who don't necessarily speak English as their first language. How are we connecting them with the resources that they need?
So
Go ahead.
I
I know
can
you
speak
want
to
to.
I can speak to the second question first. So at the middle and high school level, I've been working with Nancy Miranda, who is our English language learner teacher, as well as the guidance department, Sharon Buckley, to really figure out what agencies out there will help us and have counselors that have another language that can help. If it's Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services coming in and the student can have a counselor who is English speaking, but the parents need some interpreter or translations, then we've been providing that as well. It's still in its infancy stages in terms of finding out what else is out there to help us with families that speak English as a second language. And the first question was, what are we doing to reach out to those students that may not be reaching out for help themselves?
Yeah, like what do we do? Yeah, what are we doing for those students who are not necessarily reaching out themselves?
That's a fantastic question, and one that I struggled with when I was in 7th grade, and I think schools and districts still struggle with that. When I was in 7th grade, I definitely needed to talk to a counselor about a couple things, and that door, I can picture it right beyond the cafeteria. It was always closed, and there was a 0% chance I was ever going to go up, a shy little kid, and knock on the door and then pour my guts out and tell about how horrible a time I'm having. So we do talk about that quite a bit. I'd love to tell you we've come up with this perfect solution that works for every kid. We haven't. That's one of the main topics of that summit that we talked about, where how do we better connect staff? Some of it's connecting, basically putting in a very simplified form for parents, and you can say it's for kids, of, oh, here's the wealth of different offerings. That still doesn't get you over that gigantic hurdle. I knew there was help behind that door, but me knocking on that door and getting the help, that was a wall I just wasn't willing to, or able to get over. We've been talking about, and we'll flesh it out more during that summit, of proactively trying to connect, have our staff connect with students, not wait for the students, not just be there when they walk in, but getting into classrooms. We've talked about that proactively, to talk about, introduce themselves, not just one person, but numerous people, where they can be found, how they can be found. In today's day and age, obviously, they can be connected with
Email.
email, stuff that we just didn't have back then. It's those, we believe, it's those connections that is going to make the difference. But how do we better proactively make those connections happen, not just by, happenstance that you happen to have the guts and go down and pour your guts out, that we are going to students and we are proactively working to connect. So that's what we have so far, but after the summit, we'll give you an update on the summit anyhow, but I'll be very interested to see what that feedback is.
Can I have another question, a follow-up question? So as part of the summit, will you be reviewing data?
We haven't got that far, we don't even have a date for it yet,
Okay.
but we could. I'm certainly not against data. Came up a little bit in the previous meeting, the thought of having some students attend and actually speak about their experience, I think that qualitative piece to me is incredibly important. I'm not saying that data isn't, but data that you'd get from an anonymous survey, to me, is very important, but hearing straight from students what their experience is, I think it's going to be important for
The
that
data I'm
team.
kind of wondering is not just like the survey, but mostly like how many students are reaching out to the guidance counselors or the school psychologists or the counselors, like,
We can definitely get that. I'm not sure I know what that would tell me.
it would tell you that not many.
Right, but say, let's just make this up, say, they said 200 at the high school. Are there 200 more that really, don't feel like they're welcomed or known or valued? That
Other data like.
I don't know.
Any history of hospitalizations or mental health referrals or agencies,
Yes.
like to the Shrewsbury Youth and Family Center.
So that they do review, like the student support teams really do review that type of data. I think in order to find the students who maybe are not accessing, I think the thing that we're working with administrators on too is triangulating data in terms of attendance and discipline and grades and, those typical data points. But I think what Jay's speaking to when we have the summit is really finding out from all of those staff that are on the ground, like, what is it we're missing? What, if you had a magic wand, what other pieces of information would you want? How are we reaching out to those students who maybe aren't reaching out to you? I think since the very first day that I met Jay, he's always said, students need to be connected and they need to have at least 2 adults in a building that they can go to. And it doesn't matter who that adult is, as long as there are at least 2. And I think it's really trying to make those gains with students and staff. I'm not sure if that answered your
Yeah, that's
question,
fine.
but.
Laura?
My question got answered. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Any other questions? Yep.
Today's news kind of has this on my mind. I see here, we didn't really talk about it, but we're gonna start Alice training at the middle school and high school. Did I understand that?
Oh, we have for
So I was gonna ask if
everybody's.
we've been doing Alice
Yep,
training all along, or if it's a new.
No, we have a district certification. We've been,
Okay.
every single staff member is certified. We go through, we have practice
Yep.
on a routine basis.
Not a
I think
change
we've done
from other
exceptionally well
training
with
we had
that.
before, it's the same, okay.
Yeah, I'm cognizant of those students who aren't speaking up, who are too shy, or it's embarrassing, and they just, like you've expressed, I think those are the ones that I worry about the most, and I wonder, I'm glad to hear that you're talking about this at the summit, and I wonder how much capacity we would have for just sort of broadly applicable presentations where they are going into the classrooms and maybe a little bit more than just saying, here's the resources that we have, but just talking about some of the issues that we know that they're facing every day and how they might feel, and letting them know that it's normal and everyone's going through this, or a lot of people are going through this, and what they can do, and just, some of those issues that it might feel comforting for them to hear just in a broad sense, and know that it's not something that they should be embarrassed about, or it's not a stigma. It's not, if they're having issues and concerns, or if they're scared or nervous or stressed, or that everyone's going through this, and
Real conversation.
yeah.
I know one thing that a lot of administrators have done in the past, and we'll make sure that they do it now with the opening of the new school year, is why would you go to the counselor? What are some things that they might talk about? Why would you go and see your assistant principal? What are some things that they might talk to you about? Just because it takes away that unknown, that mystery. And then I know at the high school, they have an online scheduling system. So if they want to see the guidance counselor, they can just do an online, or I believe they do. You do.
Yeah, that's very convenient.
And so that's easier too, because it's a lot more anonymous, I guess, in terms of nobody knows that you've made that appointment, and you can just go in and see the counselor.
Are they required to meet with their designated counselor at the beginning of, I guess, freshman year?
Yeah, I think we
You
are
are?
required for course selections. I think everyone's required to at least meet
Okay.
once to be like, okay, looks good. For colleges, for the college process, you have to meet with them as well.
Okay, so
probably
they
not
at least
the
know
top-
them.
Not at the top of the year, but
Mm.
it wouldn't be till like spring.
Oh, okay. I was just thinking as an introduction, just so they know who they are and they feel
Yep.
more
They do
comfortable.
in grade level
swimming.
meetings in the very beginning.
Yeah,
They
okay.
introduce who the counselors
Yeah.
are and what role they have.
Yeah, okay, good. All right. Any other questions? All right.
This is excellent. I just wanted to say it's excellent. I hear what you were saying last time about, coming out of the gate and trying to do too much and accomplishing nothing. I hear that, and I think this still looks like a lot to me. So, but if you think you can handle it, then let's go.
All right. Oh, yeah, I do.
All right. Do you want to
I'm
give,
off my game tonight.
I think we all are.
Oh, yeah,
all
yeah.
right, superintendent report.
All right, I have very little. I had forgotten I had anything. I wanted, as usual, to give you a COVID update. Certainly better than last week. So we're at 52 cases. That includes today. The week ends, for the purposes of reporting, ends on Wednesday. So the 52 plus whatever we have for positive cases tomorrow will obviously be that weekly total. We had 6 cases today, which was, in a weird way, good for us, considering the past, month plus. I handed out a copy of the Grafton Board of Health mask advisory that came out this afternoon around, I think it was 2 o'clock. Dan Finn had reached out yesterday and just checked in with me to see how the schools were doing, just to, kind of connect. And he mentioned that they were most likely going to come out with something. So that's out today. Any questions regarding anything COVID?
Amy?
I just wanted to point out that for the first time, there's a change, and that is that there's an end date on this recommendation. It's 1 month, so May 24th to June 24th, suggesting that we wear masks in certain situations. I've noticed a lot of communities are doing it that way, and I think that actually does help with acceptance. Wayland schools were masked for 2 weeks, but, knowing
Right.
the end date was helpful, like, we'll mask for 2 weeks, get the numbers down, and then come back.
Right.
And I did like that. I thought that was a good idea. Because otherwise, it's so open-ended and almost hopeless for people. We don't want that.
Okay, and then I just had upcoming events. This focused primarily on the high school. I threw in the North Grafton Elementary School Fun Fair on Saturday, so obviously it's a super busy time of the year. But the seniors seem to be in a great place. We were missing many of them today. And their last day is, somewhere out. I didn't see Annabelle this morning when I did traffic.
Really quick. I was just
Really, it was strange. We looked and didn't see her.
I just ran so fast.
Yeah,
Not a
yeah.
senior to be found, huh?
Yeah, there weren't many.
Strange.
God.
Yeah, that's all I have. Any questions?
Questions from the committee?
Can I just say that, I'm sorry. I'm
ahead.
so used to just being able to
It's
talk
all right.
whenever I want.
It's all right.
It's going to be an adjustment.
And
though.
it's an adjustment day.
Um,
Get there.
I just want to say that I am so grateful that the administration can laugh about skip day and not make a big deal and not threaten to not let you walk the stage at graduation. I mean, there are some districts that are still doing that stuff, and they need to be able to play little jokes and have some fun the last week of school. There's not a lot of learning taking place right now, right, Annabelle?
Yeah, if you're not here, yeah.
And we didn't have skip day, we just had a number of seniors that were busy
Correct.
today.
I wouldn't call
outside
it
school.
skip.
Yes. they were
Oh, yeah,
busy.
okay. Like
We
Friday.
wouldn't want to label.
Yeah, awesome. But I do appreciate that, because I think that speaks to the need for the mental health aspect. They don't need to be stressed about not being allowed to graduate, which back in the day, it felt like a real risk to me when I was 17, but,
All right, thank
All
you.
right,
Any other
thank you.
questions?
Nope.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have the MASC resolution. Laura, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I'll talk about it. Actually, Jay, you're going to be annoyed with me. Can you go back? Is it possible to put this up? There was a request by a member of the committee to put this on the screen.
Sorry, Jay.
No problem.
It was me, I'm the member.
Would have mentioned it.
I know, I was a little, things happened, so I didn't get a chance. No, I didn't realize it was next. So anyway, while he's getting this up, I'll just give the background. So MASC, Leorg, that's our Massachusetts, Association of School Committees, for anybody that doesn't know. We're very fortunate as Grafton to be a member. They are our advocacy group. They go to the state. They work with state leaders. They are our trainer. They're people that can come in and do many things for us, help us with board governance or whatever we need. They're an amazing resource. I'm on the board for them for our division. And what happens at the end of the year is, or not the end of the year, we have a conference in November, a big conference that we can all go to, and once that registration's open, I'll send it out to the committee. There's a summit, and we vote as all the school committees in Massachusetts who are members of MASC vote on what are the resolutions that MASC is going to bring to the state. So all it really means, if you're going to boil it down, is what are the school committees in Massachusetts supporting or hoping to see, and then we all know how government works. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. My first year on the committee, they were fighting for the billionaire tax, which is still coming up. So it's things, but it's our values, it's what we believe in and what we think is best for our districts in the entire Commonwealth. So what you can also do is there's a resolution committee. You can be nominated to be on that. There's a great group of people on it right now. And they come up with those resolutions on their own. But anybody can submit. It's like a citizen's petition if we were going to town meeting. Any committee can submit a resolution, but it has to be signed on by at least 5 committees in 2 districts. So we're in District 4, and then there's 10 districts, I believe. So that's a very lengthy just background, but I think it's important to understand what exactly this is. So this didn't come from Grafton, this came from a Worcester School Committee member. And she is asking for support from different school committees. And actually a member of the community reached out via Twitter to both me and Amy, flagging it for us. It's something that's very near and dear, at least to my heart. And it's about being having Massachusetts codify gender identity as a protected class. And that Massachusetts has a long history of standing for civil rights, including for the advocacy for Bill of Rights in the U.S. Constitution, and that we're seeing transgender students over the nation being targeted, and we want to make a statement that transgender students are welcome and people are welcome in Massachusetts. And the reason why I think it's important to bring this up to our committee is that we have transgender students in our community. We could have transgender teachers and staff, and I very much believe I want them to know that they are safe and that we support them. And this is a very good start for it. What this means is that we will sign on as Grafton. It will go then to the resolution committee, and then we will vote on it, and we'll come back in November. So all it means right now is what I'm asking or hoping to ask for is a motion that we will sign on to this committee. We will let the author of the committee know that Grafton has signed on, and I do think as leaders in this community, as leaders in our school district, this is something important to take a stand right on, that we believe that transgender students have all the rights that they should have under the Constitution of the United States. Amy, did you have anything you wanted to add? Because I know you were also involved in this.
No, I just, when I read this, it just seems like common sense to me. I mean, obviously, we're here to advocate for students. We're here to represent students. I know we have transgender students in our schools. I know that transgender students have a high likelihood of attempting suicide, mental illness. So if we're gonna be serious about mental illness in Grafton, I think we need to be serious about protecting our transgender community. Again, this doesn't do that, but it's a step in that direction.
Right, and it's really calling that Massachusetts to be a sanctuary state. So
Could be 10 years before anything happens, but
precisely, I hope not. I think Massachusetts does have a long history of, standing for civil rights, although they have also had a long history of some issues as well. But this is a good start in the right direction, and I would love to see Grafton support something like this. I don't know if we need to read this word for word, but I am happy to.
I figured if it was on, we could read it if you want. I just figured if it was on the screen, then folks at home would be able to.
I don't,
Everyone has it in their packets
don't
as well,
think we
so you
need to
have
read it out
you have
loud.
right in front of you. Yeah, I
I
don't think
do
so.
love to hear myself talk.
I think it's in the packet, it's provided on our website, so it's public for everyone to see, and we also have it up here on the screen. And it's pretty brief, so I think that's good. Laura, do you know if, so we are one of what could be 5 school committees who would have to approve it before it goes to the MASC delegate. Do you
Yeah.
know if any other school committees have
Yeah, I
already
know
approved it?
Franklin is voting on it tonight, and I.
Worcester?
Worcester, they're the author of it. So, and I think we're in Worcester's division, but Franklin isn't in our division, so that would be at least 3. I'm not sure.
I think I had heard
Four?
four school districts had already,
Yeah.
Had already approved it.
or were in the works
Good.
of approving it.
I'd love to be one of the leaders on this as well. So I think, but it's all timing, obviously, right? Like this came out, we had to get on the agenda and like it was up our last meeting, but we couldn't talk about it yet. So I think it's gaining traction. I can't imagine it would, I don't know. Who knows?
Okay, thank you. So we have to vote to approve this resolution tonight, if that's what the committee wants to do?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Amy.
I move that the committee adopt this resolution.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All
I
right,
just very much agree with Amy that if we're going to be serious about the mental health of our students, then we need to consider all our students, not just some students.
100%.
I
Laura.
think too that even if it doesn't pass quickly, if it is something that takes years, we've made a statement to the students in our district, and I think that's equally important, so.
All right, any further discussion?
No, but I will let if it passes, I'll follow up with the author and let her know that we've sent up,
Okay,
if that's okay.
great, thank you. All right, all those in favor? All right, motion carries, unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, great, thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
All right, student representative reports. Annabelle, are you ready to give your last one? We'll let Marushka go first, but do you have a report for us?
Yes, AP testing has come to an end. The last one was AP Physics on May 12th, so that's exciting. The chorus and band for Grafton High School went on the Hershey trip this last weekend, and they participated in a music festival competition where the chorus had won first place and the chamber choir had won third place overall. And we just had NHS senior night where the new board was inducted into their positions for next year, and we had a farewell for the seniors on NHS, as well as the civics engagement projects for history classes have recently begun, where students started or identified an issue that they find is important in our community. It could be the Grafton, it could be Massachusetts, national, global, or it could just be within the school, within certain classes. And the goal is to find a solution for it. That mall's out now, Annabelle?
All right, thank you.
I have a few things. MCAS for freshmen, I believe, starts next week. And DECA is going on their bowling field trip. And the last day for seniors is this Friday. And this is my last meeting. So I just want to take the time to thank you all for having me on the committee. It's been such a great time. I genuinely have really appreciated all the connections I've been able to make and the information I've taken in from being here. So thank you all.
Well, thank you, Annabelle. I hope you have gotten as much out of this experience as we have gotten from your input on this committee. So thank you very much for the time you took to serve, and we're going to miss you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Laura.
So Annabelle, one thing is I am mortified. We have a beautiful card for you that it has a cow graduating, and it's really funny, and I made a joke, and I do not know what happened it from my house to here. So that will get in the mail to you. But the present that went with the card, I still have. So we do have something from the committee to you. I would like to say just, you came on when I was chair, and we worked through that pandemic together, and you were a little square in your room looking at James, and many students might have given up, and you always came, and you had the beautiful sloppy bun on your head, and not that it was sloppy, but messy bun, that's what it's called. And you have been such a light on this committee. You are smart and driven, and everything we could have hoped for a student member. I hope you stay in touch. I hope you stay engaged wherever you go in your community. And I think Grafton is truly lucky to have you, and I'm going to miss you a lot. So best of luck to you. And I'm mortified about the card. I even texted my husband, and I was like, is it on the counter? Can you find it? He couldn't find it. I thought maybe it spilled in my car. But I'm a little bit of a mess today. So I will say the shooting really threw me off, and I was not on my A game. So this is from all of us, including Jen Conley. So best of luck to you.
Thank you. I know you're hungry.
I'm a hugger. Don't you want to hug 7th grade Jay too? Like, I feel so bad when I go back in time and hug the little 7th grade Jay. Even though he wouldn't have liked it. I don't know. 7th grade Laura was very spunky.
Well, I don't know how to follow that, but I just wanted to say, everything Laura said, I was so impressed that you stuck with it during COVID when you were at home, and not too many student reps would have done that, and so I really knew that you were serious, and you always had something to say, even though you were quiet in your little room. But look at you now.
I know. I do believe that I've been more comfortable speaking since being here. So,
We like to hear that.
yeah,
Good.
I
Good luck.
really appreciate my time on here.
All right, thank you. All right, well, you guys can stick around, of course, and I know you like to head out about 8 o'clock usually, right? 8:30-ish, okay,
Well,
so feel free
She's not going to
to.
school anymore, so she can
She doesn't
stay
have
as late as
anything to do. Feel free to stay as long as you
she
like.
stay till midnight now.
You're a grown up now.
All right, next on the agenda is the superintendent's salary. So I'll just introduce this under the contract that we have with Dr. Cummings. We have a chance to look at the salary every year, but if we're going to give an increase, it's something that we would vote on. So we are discussing that tonight.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we raise Dr. Cummings' pay by 2.5% in sync with the other unit contracts.
Motion made. Any second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would just point out that we did discuss this in executive session, so the fact that there's no discussion in front of the public just means that we've hashed it out in our executive session, and the minutes for that will be approved at a future meeting.
Yeah. Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just would like to thank Jay again for all his work this year. 2.5 is not as much as I would have loved to have given. You did a great job. You really knocked it out of the park, and I really appreciate all that you do for the district. So thank you.
Feelings mutual. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? All right. Motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you. All right, next up, future agenda and schedule planning. So we have one more meeting on the schedule for this year, unless we're going to meet in July, which I would like to take off, but
I love it.
I'd like to see what everyone else has to say about that.
Take it off.
Laura has her hand up.
Yes.
I know you can see her, but you go next.
Yeah, I know. I'm realizing that I have to really push up here.
That's all right. I'm never shy. So it's fine.
Stick that arm up there.
I have one thing we will need to do, I think, before we take a little time off, and I know we have a lot going on in next meeting, is that we do have to pick what roles we want. So we reorg tonight, but and I think one of our, at least for now, I guess we can just have everybody sign, but we lost Jen Conley, who we have elected to be our sole signature of payroll and of the warrants, and we are gonna need signatures before, I think, in 2 weeks, especially for payroll.
Right.
Right.
And you need,
So,
you need
if
it
we-
tonight as well, right?
But we can, 3 can sign tonight, so for the warrant, so what we did, just to, I'm sorry to be obnoxious, but many years ago, we used to always, all 3 of us, we had to have 3 people. So there would be like emails, can anybody come to the municipal center? Then the Massachusetts changed the law that we could have 1 person represent the committee and sign the warrant. We still all review the warrants every other week, we all have the transparency and all of that, but this just took away red tape. So Jen has been doing that for I don't know how many years, since we started doing it. And then we also voted to make her do payroll. At the time, the chair was doing payroll, but they wanted to keep it separate so that the chair wasn't also signing payroll. So Jen just did both. But now we don't have anybody. So I think we can always, 3 of us can still sign the warrant, and it could be a pain for 2 weeks. But the payroll thing, I would think would be, I mean, I guess could be the same. We could just all 3 or something.
Do we
but-
need, do we need someone to cover this in the interim before we meet again on the 14th?
Yeah.
So we could,
We could make an interim, or I feel like
Yeah.
you could add as chair, you can add this to the agenda. I don't think this is any kind of
yeah, it's
crazy
administrative.
business we're doing where the public wouldn't.
Right.
You know.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fine. So we could nominate someone tonight as, maybe, so you wouldn't necessarily be committing for the whole year, but someone to cover for the next 2 weeks to sign the payroll. And I guess we could just sign the warrant tonight, or we could have 1 person signing both, too.
So we will need for payroll warrant signed, I don't have one today, I will have that for tomorrow.
Okay.
And what we had been doing since the pandemic is we have a shared folder, and we drop it into the folder, Jen would sign it and drop it back into the folder, and then we would print it out
Oh,
here.
that's pretty easy.
So that way people didn't have to come to the municipal building
Okay.
to sign. And then if Jen had any questions, we would talk on the phone.
Okay. That's
about
nice.
those.
That's pretty easy. Okay.
Well, we could
So
just do it for the year. We don't have to do it for
We
just the
could
2
do it
weeks.
for the year, yeah, if anyone's willing.
I'll do it.
Does
I'm
anyone
happy
want
to
to
do it.
volunteer
Yeah.
to, or we could take nominations as
Unless you
well,
want
if someone wants to
No,
nominate
fine.
someone else?
I don't have access to a scanning thing. so-
All right, so
Clerk can do it.
you're interested?
I'm
All right, I will entertain nominations
super
for
interested.
I don't need
The-
Laura to do this thing.
the signatory for warrants and payroll.
Woo-hoo.
Does that cover it?
Sure.
All right, second for that, anyone?
Second?
Graciela? All right, all those in favor?
Thanks
All
for your
right.
service, Laura.
Congratulations, Laura.
Is it tricky to sign online? Is it like the other thing you tried to make me sign online? 'Cause do I just scan it?
We'll connect.
Is it just a
I can also
PDF where you
pop
just,
over.
The
I can, oh, it's just a PDF?
the PDF, you pull down your signature?
Yeah.
Do you know how to?
I
okay.
do.
Or you could just come in and say hi to Kristen, either way.
Okay.
That might be the
So,
way.
yeah, I was going to mention, so, yeah.
Thank
next
you. Yeah, but
meeting
then we have
on
other
the
things, all the-
14th,
Yep.
we'll talk
Yeah.
about, so we have a designee on CIPC, and Amy's been doing that for a long time. We have we have 2 designees on the TRICOM committee. I think we meet a couple of times a year. I was serving on that with Jen most recently. I think our next meeting is in late August or early September. We won't need negotiation committees, so we can skip that for this year. And, yeah, and then payroll and warrant, so.
And policy.
And policy, I skipped over policy.
Wellness, which I don't
Policy
think you guys
and-
ever met, but.
Yeah, the wellness committee, right.
And ARPA, but I would
And
And
ARPA, which,
submit that Laura should stay on it if she wants to, because they already lost the chair.
Yeah, there's rumors that the chair and the member at large will swap, but we don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. No, yeah.
Are
But we
there
can talk about
any,
that next time.
there's not a meeting in between, right?
I don't think so, but if there is, I can still go as a
Yeah.
representative. and
Okay.
It'll be kosher.
Can I ask what the wellness committee is?
So the wellness committee is, well, do you want, it looks like they want to explain, not today.
Today, I'm so sorry. Rescind my
You wanna speak to it?
question.
Nope.
Oh. We need to resurrect that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We used to have a wellness committee. It was representatives, gosh, it was a long time
It
ago.
was, I was on it
Yeah.
with Maddie, so when she was
Parents,
a
we probably
senior.
had some students, different reps from different schools, and it wasn't rocket science, but you bring everybody together and talk about things like we talked about tonight.
Okay. I'd be,
We probably did it quarterly, and then,
We recently revised, we have a policy about that governs this committee as well. And we recently revised that, and the intent was to invigorate it, and I think it just,
Yeah.
that was sort of before the holidays, and I think everyone just got busy, and
COVID came back.
COVID came back, and so we had to deal with that. And I think there were questions about nutrition and things like that that are under the guise of that committee. So I can point you in the direction of that
Sure.
policy too, if you're interested and want to
Yeah, I'd
learn
like to see
more
it.
before the next meeting, if you'd be interested in that. I think I'm the designee for that committee, so if someone else is interested,
So we only
I'd
get
be
one.
more than happy.
get
We
one
just
rep.
have one,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
on that one. And we have two reps, 2 people on the policy subcommittee, 2 on TRICOM, and 1 on ARPA, and 1 on CIPC. So, something to think about
I
for
was gonna
next
say, do we
time.
want to put that list in the drive for the next meeting?
Sure.
So then you guys can see it all written out. Because I think that document has like summaries. I think you wrote it. Summaries of
The
each thing?
document that I had didn't have summaries, but we can certainly put that together. Yeah. Okay. And we could, do you want to talk next time about, our first meeting for August, our first meeting for the next year? We can, okay.
Yeah, I'd love to see if we could plan a summer workshop or
Oh, yeah.
some sort of, I think, we're a newer committee now. It'd be good to just kind of reconnect, and whether it's some kind of retreat or something, if we want to get in MASC to come. I mean, I think it would be helpful to do that, and sometimes we can do that in the summer, depending on vacations and scheduling.
No, that's a great idea. I think that's something that we can think about what we might do and where we might do it, and dates that could be possible. Think about your vacation plans, and then we can talk about that next
Yeah,
meeting
that
too,
sounds
and try to
great.
plan something.
Yeah, be great.
That sounds great.
Can I ask a
Yeah,
question about
Gracia.
next meeting? I see we
Yes.
have the GHS equity audit update. Is that when Gabrielle Knight is coming?
yes, and the focus won't be on the audit, but it will be on the
It'll be
work
on the
that she's
diversity work
doing.
that she's doing.
We'll most likely have Tracy Kalo. They've been working in conjunction, 712.
Okay.
So I haven't asked Tracy yet, but
Oh, but you just,
I think I mentioned it to Gabby. But anyhow, I expect that we'll have both here, and they'll speak to what they've been working on.
Okay. And we'll still have Kevin coming about the internship program and the,
Correct.
yeah, okay. All right, anything else? Okay. Moving on, approval of minutes. We have minutes from last meeting, May 10th. And I will entertain a motion to approve.
so I do have a comment about the minutes. I was reviewing them today and I noticed that my comments to, when special education came and talked to us, they were just incorrectly noted on the minutes. My question was about ELL students. It's recorded as ELA students and reading. So,
Okay, so all those on the bottom of page 22?
yep,
Okay.
I believe the answer is also incorrectly worded.
And is it just the reference to,
Yep, so it says Graciela Vargas Baker asked how
Yep.
the department works with the ELA departments, and I asked about the ELL students.
students? Okay.
Yeah, and how they're working towards minimizing their referral for special education or overrepresentation of students in that department.
Okay. Okay, so what we can do is we can, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes with that change and any other changes that anybody has tonight, and then we can make sure that this gets corrected for the record.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
I
Amy.
move to adopt these minutes as amended.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Can I abstain until they're changed?
The motion still carries. 3, 4, 2 abstain? Did you raise your hand? Okay, I didn't see you raise your hand, so, all right. Got to turn my head faster during these motions.
It's easier from this chair.
Yeah?
Yeah,
All
You'll
right.
be able to see.
No, well, I'll sit there next
You need a
time and I'll be
buzzer.
able to see. I'm gonna get a sore neck flipping back and forth. Okay. All right, thank you. Next, the financial report. We don't have a warrant tonight, right? Okay. Policy, we don't have any policy, so we can skip that. And so do we have any member reports? Amy?
I wanted to, I went to the band and chorus concert last week. It was excellent. It was the high school one. The middle school one is coming up next month. I'm so impressed by how quickly the chorus and band have caught up. And I hate talking about like learning loss, but at the beginning of the year, it was rough because some of these kids hadn't touched an instrument in 18, 22 months. But they're right back where they need to be. The band took second place at the music festival. They did very well. And it's just so great to hear the music again in the schools. And I know the band was out front practicing. I saw Laura was in the line and they were out front practicing today, which was really cool. Bon Voyage Committee, I believe they're meeting right now. They could have already met. For the seniors after graduation, they're all gonna go to the high school hopefully, and have a night of fun and food and safety, I hope. I hope you'll be there, Andrew.
I will be there.
So that's exciting. A lot of the moms have been working really, really hard to make that a special night and a safe night. I wanted to point out that internship night, which isn't included on that like senior list of things because it's new, but it is tomorrow evening. People want to come and meet and talk to students who have done internships this year. In lieu of them coming in, I believe, is how they're doing it. So 6 o'clock at the high school. I don't think it's going to take very long. And then right after that, you can go to dinner at Hunter's to help raise money for the class of 2024. It never ends, does it? Always raising money for something.
Not in May and June, especially.
That's
All
it.
right, hold on. All right,
That's what I got.
any other member reports?
I
Yes,
have,
Grafton.
since budget is not my forte, I've been brushing up on the MASC recorded, I guess, what they called it, hour
Session?
lunch.
Oh, the lunch
Oh,
hour?
the lunch hours, yeah,
Yeah.
hour lunch hours. I've been listening lately, little by little, to the one about the ESSER money. And just learning more about where money comes from.
You know, it doesn't grow on trees.
It doesn't, no, it
You
doesn't go
can't
into.
just make it in your basement?
No, unfortunately, I don't. If I did. But that's what I've been trying to
Right.
do a little bit more, just learning a little bit more about the budget and what goes on in.
All right, great. Do you have anything else?
That's it.
No? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So correspondence, is that what this is? Okay.
Yeah.
So I see something that was put before us. We'll add this to the packet that's, so this just came in.
It is. So this came in, was received last night, that from the GTA. Kristen did a great job working with, that's the Grafton Teachers Association, working with their leadership, and we were trying to figure out, are they gonna come in and speak to it, are they gonna present it? They did it, they requested that I read their letter, and if you as chair are open to it, I can do that. I don't think they're expecting any kind of, we told them it wouldn't be deliberated or anything that's addressed today, but that it would be considered by the school committee in the future.
Let me just finish reading it real quick. Yeah, I think that's fine.
All right, so this was emailed to me and then shared with the committee on May 23rd. On behalf of the Grafton Teachers Association to the GPS School Committee, we believe that the vaccination policy and testing protocol adopted in January of 2022 is now out of date and is not helping to keep our staff and students as safe as possible. The Massachusetts Department of Public Health has now defined up to date with regards to COVID-19 vaccinations as completed the primary series of Pfizer, Moderna, or J&J vaccine and a booster dose, or completed the primary series of Pfizer or Moderna vaccine within the last 5 months, or completed the primary series of J&J vaccine within the last 2 months. The district is currently asking unvaccinated staff to test weekly. However, those teachers who are fully vaccinated by definition in January are now equally vulnerable to either spread or contract COVID-19 if not up to date. The GTA board requests that the GPS school committee propose an amendment to the current policy due to the most recent scientific data provided by the CDC. As new information around COVID becomes available, the district must be willing to keep up with the science and be willing to make changes to policies pertaining to the virus. The GTA would like to know how the district is going to keep up with the science and the changes in approach to vaccination and testing. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter as we are faced with challenging and constantly changing times. GTA leadership.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. Any comments on that? Any comments on that?
Any comments on that? Yes, I have a comment. So the policy that we're talking about in this letter is GBGA 1, COVID-19 staff vaccination policy. It does state that staff must demonstrate they're fully vaccinated by January 3rd, 2022. So I looked up, what does that mean? While the Mass Department of Public Health has a different definition, the CDC still defines up to date as not including boosters. So the policy is in line with what CDC is recommending. If we want to send this back down to policy subcommittee and have them take another look at it, we could do that. But I was just struck by that definition of up to date. It's different depending on the different organizations. And my sense was that this was based on CDC policy. CDC recommendations, am I correct?
So there's two different definitions that the CDC uses. One of them is up to date, and then the other one is fully vaccinated. And the CDC defines those things differently. So up to date means booster, and fully vaccinated means first 2 shots without the booster. So just, it's kind of, it's difficult in trying to apply those 2 definitions by the CDC sometimes, but.
It is.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
we can't really deliberate anyway.
Yeah.
My guess is that that's not their issue regardless. I don't think it's about the booster. So I recommend that we kick it back to policy subcommittee. We chat about it, which is still me and Liz at this pilot. We bring it up for another discussion. We did recently
good.
look at it. We said we would look at it toward the, beginning of the school year. At this point, it's May. So I'm happy to take a look at it. I mean, they've come to us twice now. It has changed where we've learned. So anyway, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But
No,
let's do that.
Yep, I agree. We can
We'll get something on the books quickly
consider
to talk
looking
about
at it in policy. All right. Moving on, let's see. I don't think we need executive session tonight, but I think we will need it at the next meeting to vote on the executive session minutes, just very briefly. Before I entertain a motion to adjourn, though, I did want to do something that I forgot to do at the beginning of the meeting, getting a little excited, just getting elected to chair, and I meant to ask the committee for a moment of silence for the families of Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Thank you. And last, also, should have done this at the beginning of the meeting as well, but wanted to just welcome Leora to her first school committee meeting, and welcome back Graciela and Amy, getting reelected. Welcome back. Woo. All right. And unless anyone has anything else,
Motion
I'll
to
entertain a motion
adjourn.
Thank you, Laura. Seconded. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?